one of the greatest niche fragrances in my collection that are outrageously expensive. Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? My name is Neeb. Welcome back to AROMATIX. Today we're going to be talking about one of my latest acquisitions and purchases that unfortunately stayed or waited this long. This is called Sospiro Basso. But I don't want to just talk about this one. I also want to talk about Dolce Melodia. These are the last two of my haul that I picked up from Suspiro. These are pricey, but you can, generally speaking, find them at some discounters. Not to mention, a lot of people compare them with like a lot of Xerjoff fragrances. But in all honesty, I've bought so many flops from Xerjoff. My experience with Suspiro, literally a night and day difference. All of the fragrances that I've purchased so far have been, let's just talk about it. This is called Basso, and most of these fragrances are gonna have this fuzzy texture that the bottle is enveloped in, and I think it's great. It gives you something else to the price tag, not just the quality and the fragrance, all of which go through a checklist, right? Like, I'm gonna spend a lot of money, okay. Give me a nice box, check. Give me a nice bottle, check. Give me a decent cap, check. And then looking at the atomizer, that's another check. And now we get into the fragrance, right? These are kind of like the last checkpoints. And those last checkpoints, though, determine the longevity of how much we use the fragrance or talk about it. And this, oh my God. You know what my brain jumps to immediately? I've been falling in love with a lot of like vetiver scent profiles. Terre d'Hermès vetiver Eau Intense, also Pierce by PDM. Except this one, it does it even more niche than one of my favorite, Eau Intense vetiver by Terre d'Hermès. It definitely places me in that vein with a lot more richness and even more projection than that. Honestly, like when it came to vetiver scents, I wrote it off as like the greatest of all time until I smelled this. It's pretty close to something like that, but the citruses in this has a lot more depth and body, along with the bitterness, or I should say the alkalinity, if you will, of the vetiver as well. Kind of reminds me of a combination between cedarwood and vetiver, like snapped pencils, literally, quite literally. And that in itself is a bit nostalgic, but also the relationship to like luxury hotels. This is an unapologetic style of scent that will absolutely put you in the vein of those elegant, modern, and timeless fragrances like Terre d'Hermès Eau Intense vetiver. And I freaking love it. I remember spraying this one on when I was testing it, and I could smell it projecting the entire night for at least 4 hours. And while I love Terre d'Hermès, the Eau Intense vetiver, this one just annihilates when it comes to the projection. And it could be because there's a lot more dense notes in the base. If I'm not mistaken, some oak moss and also some ambers. This is a great fragrance. If you're into vetiver, it's a must have, and I really am into vetiver. It was one of those notes where, similar to grapefruit, is pretty polarizing, and I wasn't the craziest about, but now I'm all vetiver. And this is like top 3 vetiver fragrances of all time. It's called Sospiro Basso. It's not amber, it's actually galbanum. That gives it a little bit more of a rich and green earthy style of scent profile, or dry down, I should say. Next one, Dolce Melodia. So I remember this one having a fruit cream type of DNA. And it kind of reminds me of like, not necessarily an orange creamsicle. It's a little bit more foamy than that, lighter than that. It's got a freshness, something that's pretty lifted and light. Although you can smell the orange mandarin that kind of gives you this honeyed molasses, there's something pretty acidic and berry-like, the black currant. So black currant, along with this waxy style of florals, gardenia, and a musky and more light style of scent profile coming from musk and pear. Pear in itself, even when you smell it in its natural origin, it has a musky vibe. Yes, it's fruity, but it doesn't go into like the rich and molasses territory like you will the cuties or the little tangerines. And so that, usually coupled with musk often, and maybe even sandalwood, which this one does as well, offers you something that's musky, airy with some richness, and then also that powdery aspect as well. So basically what you end up having is like berries and mandarin, along with a musky, vanillic, and powdery scent profile. This shit lasts, and it projects and it performs. And I personally haven't really smelled anything like this. So it's not anything like Herba Pura. Herba Pura is a lot piercing and like synthetic, at least to my nose. Herba Gold, sure, was the better version of Herba Pura, but even then, this one does it better. This one does it much freaking better. Richer, more ambery, a lot more body, a lot cleaner of a scent profile, and it's amazing. So the performance and projection with both of these are excellent. So I can understand why people talk about these, okay? So when it comes to the box, I would say it's a check, okay? It's nothing crazy or anything like that, but it's still pretty high quality cardboard. When it comes to the presentation, these are nice, man. These feel luxury. The plaques are on there. There's no defects or anything like that. caps, they're both heavy metals. The atomizers, you guys saw, and attention to detail, it absolutely is. But the finesse and the signature and the scent profiles, the quality, it's absolutely there. Niche fragrances for moderately priced, I think that they're worth it. And Basso, more importantly, has to be top 3 vetiver fragrances for me of all time. Both scent profiles that are very, very impressive in my opinion. Moving on. This is one that dropped quite a few months ago called Neptune's Trident. And this one has also some mandarin, but a lot more about the tea, and as it dries down, some vetiver as well. Atomizer on this at next level, and also the presentation is next level. These are the type of niche houses that deserve it, in my opinion. With just based off of the looks alone, you guys, look at these and tell me that they're not antiques on their own. I know a lot of people would buy glassware with no fluid, or even with the fluid and don't care what it smells like, that would say it's worth it. Now, I'm not telling you that, just go buy it, it looks good. No. I'm just saying my personal experience. I think these are excellent. Not worth the entirety of the price tag, obviously, without the juice, but when it's worth it with the juice, that's where the finesse comes in. So this one definitely has that green and black tea that a lot of people, it's been pretty in trend right now, right? We see Imagination, we also see Velvet Infusion from Dolce & Gabbana, and all of these fragrances focus on a couple of aspects like fresh citruses and aromatic center, which is going to be those herbs of the tea, if you will. And then in the dry down, you have some of these brittle and blonde style of woods. That's exactly what this one does, except the Argos way. I mean, it's not going to be anything that's like completely brand new to the market, but the quality is absolutely there. And I can sense the Argos DNA. I'm not sure what it is. It might be the musk or some kind of captive or fixative or a consistent quality of note that they used for one of the notes in here. What this smells like and reminds me of is like a black tea more than even the green tea note that's in here, with slight hints of peppers and a lot of that woods in the dry down, and most specifically, or more specifically, the vetiver. And so my inclination towards vetiver more recently, as you guys know, is pretty high, and that's why I personally really enjoy this one as well. So these are both great fragrances that if I were to have to compare, for example, Basso has more depth, it has more of like this all year round, even in the winter time, because of the less dimensions that it will have in regards to like a fresher aspect. Whereas Neptune's Trident, a lot more of these light citruses to kind of brighten things up, and even the woods in the dry down, it's not like this wet oak mossy style of woods or anything like that. It's not too rich of a scent profile. That doesn't mean it's not going to last, but the intention of it's where it's kind of like the frost versus the dark and rich, right? And that perfectly encaptures what these scent profiles will do. Fresher, lighter, and also more appropriate for the summer. And this one will be all year round, richer, foresty, etc. I'm colorblind as shit, but I'm assuming this is brown because it's all woods and stuff, right? Needless to say, the performance for this one will still be pretty good, but I am reminded of a few great fragrances like Velvet Infusion, Terre d'Hermès, and then also Imagination. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a spin-off. Potentially the idea of those fragrances have inspired, as it does with the market and trends, obviously, right? Like, needless to say, but they did it in a great mass appealing way. So I would personally say that this is a refreshing take on scent profiles from Argos because of the fact that most of the fragrances aren't really mass appealers. And I wouldn't call this specifically mass appealer. I'd still call this fucking niche. It's niche, indie niche at that, but just done with the scent profile that is more mass appealing. You still smell the quality. It does not smell like a tribrid of any of those three. The quality of this one absolutely climbs in the ranks in regards to how close, even for those, I would call this a higher quality than that. I just sniffed this tester strip and oh my God, it's the Dolce Melodia. It's so freaking rich and strong. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. These are the last 3 niche fragrances that I genuinely think are worth the lookout for or the pickup. And let me know in the comment section if you've purchased anything from any one of these 2 brands, if you will, and what the last fragrance would have been that you might have picked up. My name is Neeb. Thank you for tuning back into AROMATIX. Make sure to leave a like, please. It helps with the algorithm, and also subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.